the NBA slate. It's a monster. This is the biggest slate we've had this season with 14 games. As the formerly known, as Sheets would say, as the Bobby Fi slates, but we'll see. Huge tournaments out there. We're going to be doing a live sweat show at 11 Eastern time, so make sure to join us for that. Please like and subscribe if you don't already. And a reminder, you can sign up for TrueDFS with the promo code BobbyFiNBA for 25% off your first month right now. With that said, Sheets, big slate. Any thoughts before we jump into game by game?
No, I mean there's going to be stuff that obviously comes up literally as I hit submit on my first set of projections today. Zion was ruled out, like literally as I hit submit. So just be prepared for everything. Be prepared for late swapping. Just a big slate where whoever wins it deserves it. That's basically it. You got to have a good combination of being prepared in advance and be able to react pre-slate and react mid-slate. And this is they're giving away. They're offering a lot of money for first and across multiple sites and a zillion different players to choose from. These are the slates where I comment on that. If you win this one, you should probably get a bonus somehow. So yeah, let's give everybody a nice early look of what looks good as of now. And I do think that's kind of healthy anyway. You know what I mean? Just to feel what the slate could look like. And we'll just get going, I guess.
Let's do it. All right, so starting it off, let's pull up your screen and we'll go game by game here. I don't know which one you have first because I'm looking at the SaberSim screen, so let's see.
I have Utah, Indiana first.
Oh, well, talk about a fast-paced game. This is one of them. I can jump in, though, real quick and just say that, nothing is – this game you just sort of have to, in my opinion, almost throw some of the projections out. It's definitely a game I'd like to stack. I have Tyrese Halliburton as a priority guy at 9,800. There's going to be some other guys who are going to be battling with him. I think it's a great matchup for Miles Turner. I think it's a good matchup for Bruce Brown, even some Jalen Smith, but probably the wrong slate for Jalen and Obi Toppin, although the matchup is really good. And then you've got Keontae George as potential value, but I probably would avoid that on this slate. I think that my favorite would be Jordan Clarkson or Lauri Markkanen. But definitely a game that I could get into doing some business with. I just don't know for sure what that's going to be just yet. Utah plays a lot of guys. Indy outside of Halliburton is a little bit spread out. So, but this is definitely a game that you could try and stack because it could easily hit 250 total.
Yeah, these Utah games are these Indiana games are usually pretty fast pace. I didn't get to much as far as the projection goes, but I think Taylor Horton Tucker would probably be okay. On the Indiana side, I mean, Halliburton is just underpriced for what he does out there, like almost every night, So he is. I think you put it really, really well. I mean, he is a priority, but battling with a lot of other people for that priority ship. It's like there's like a lot of guys that can score a lot of points tonight, and I think he's certainly one of them.
Yeah, and Halliburton averaging 50 fantasy points, and the fact that he's played in, they've been in 3 monster blowouts. If you think this game stays close, you should really have him medianed out more around the 55 range. And
the context of this slate, remember it's a 14 game slate that spans across different time slots, and it's going to challenge our natural desire to push stuff off because this game and the one that follows it on my list are 2 games that can really deliver, and yet you typically don't want to commit to early games, so it's going to it's an interesting situation.
I'd like to touch on that just as a general teaching rule or a general rule for people. You don't want to commit usually to value, especially earlier in games. If you like a play, go ahead and make that play. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you think somebody big out might benefit another stud later, that's a little different. But mostly, I try to do that just with more with value early in the games. That's just my personal approach.
So you would say overall, your top plays from this game from the Indiana would be Halliburton and Turner, and then Utah.
I think Bruce Brown is probably Bruce Brown will probably be the most popular of all of them. He's going to project really well. I think he's projected around 30, 5,500. He's just just reasonable play. We'll see. Well, and I like the way you do it. You add the guys we like the most, and then we figure out the rest. At the end.
Yeah, and we'll kind of try to replace him here. So, and the other guy, by the way, in Utah, who's been, I don't know whether it's the role or whatever he's been doing, but
John Collins.
John Collins, yeah, I figured I'd bring him up. The last couple of games it wasn't so great or whatever, but if he pushes more towards that 32, 34 minute thing, I mean, listen, like you said, the last 2 games were kind of shit show games, even for Utah. And if he goes back to these other games where he was, got minutes, I mean, 30, 35, 36 fantasy points for him, that wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, Walker Kessler is questionable. We'll have that information before lock. And if he's out, that opens up some more on Utah. But I like my favorites on Utah in order would be Clarkson, Collins, Markkanen probably, then Horton Tucker, something like that. But it just gets very volatile playing both. Well, Horton Tucker mostly because Sexton can often take over those minutes. Agbaji, they play minutes. They just play a lot of bodies, so it gets tricky. But one of these days in one of these shootout games, I could see this being like a Halliburton with 60 fantasy points and a Clarkson, scoring 30 real life points, ending up with like 45 fantasy points. That certainly seems like a possible path to me. So just I know we're spending some time on it, but it's a big game. And so is this next one. So why don't you start off with what you like in the Washington?
Yeah. So this Washington Charlotte game could be like the Harlem Globetrotters game. It's like I don't know anybody's going to be playing any defense here. And then you have LaMelo Ball, who's probably underpriced anyway, and now Terry Rozier being out, makes him even more viable, to say the least. And then in a game where you're probably not going to get a lot of defense, I can't think of a better person to benefit from that than Jordan Poole on the Washington side, and also Kyle Kuzma. These guys are in full Chuck mode. If they can ever get a game where they can actually play the fourth quarter,
they can actually compete.
Competition, it would be great. Like the other day, I played this Washington Philly game, and I actually had Embiid and like 7% ownership at 78 fantasy points through 3 quarters, and I'm like maybe just give him some reason to come back. He had 48 real life points. So I thought they would let him come in just to get the 50, and if that happened, he would end up with another probably 25 fantasy points, right? And on the other side of it, you had Kuzma, who was just trying to shoot his team back into the game, and he had 44 fantasy points, and he didn't even play the fourth quarter, So between him and Poole, I mean, these 2 guys are going to be firing it up, and then listen, and then you have Daniel Gafford also. I mean, against Charlotte, who I don't think they've defended a center in like quite a long time. This game is I don't know what the total of this game is, but it's got to be pretty high. It's going to be maybe I'll try to coin this one. The Harlem Globetrotters game is kind of a thing. So this will be the Harlem Globetrotters game of the day.
Yeah. What? I don't know what's. We're getting the trolls, the Run Pure Sports Machine trolls coming in here, so we're going to have to block a couple people real quick.
Oh.
Yeah, they're talking about how you scam old people and how I'm a bad person. Just the same old stuff, you get from these guys, and this guy will be blocked, and there we go. All right, so yeah, I just cannot stand. I mean, what kind of people are these people? Like, it's got to be like the worst. Anyway, this is a great game.
I would just like to say, by the way,
yeah.
I mean, since you mentioned Run Pure and you mentioned Hoop's name in there, I'd like to correct you. You said, in the guys.
The guy wrote it. I didn't write anything.
No. You mentioned Run Pure and the guy mentioned Hoop.
He said that Hoop says that you scam old people and that I'm a bad.
No, I know that, but I'm getting to a point here. Okay.
I just don't know what your question.
You mentioned the Run Pure guys are trolling, but then he mentioned Hoop, right? So I mentioned that Hoop is no longer with Run Pure, and as a matter of fact, I just did a guest appearance on his new site doing MMA, and he was nothing but appreciative to me and had nothing but the nicest things to say. So this guy is like, he's like trolling on his own, if you want to.
Yeah, no, I know that's what happens. Anyway. I wasn't trying to even knock the Run Pure. I'm just saying this is what happens. It's still a result of the leftover stuff. Anyway, whatever. All right, but so priorities for the Charlotte Washington game, let's see. Sorry, I got a little thrown off.
So PK Nugent, I'll answer your question right here. I would play Curly Neal and Meadowlark Lemon in the same lineup. I would not be opposed to that. I think they're both out for quite a long time.
Yeah, I'll go just real quickly with the priorities for Gafford, one of Kuzma or Poole or both. I think Tyus Jones, then Avdia on the Washington side. I think all of those guys are in play. And then on the Charlotte side, LaMelo number one. Again, he's going to eat up the ownership. So I think playing LaMelo and some Halliburton together, good idea. It's not going to, most people are going to play LaMelo. They're not going to play as much Halliburton. I like Gordon Hayward's price. You play one of Hayward or Miller, and then PJ Washington, then Mark Williams in that order for me. But I have no issue if you want to play Mark Williams over Washington. I think this is a really good game to target. And as you mentioned earlier, like it's going to be hard to wait on some things because we've got so many good spots to attack early on. All right. Want to start off the next one?
Yeah, so Boston Philly, I think rates to be probably one of the lower scoring games, slower pace games, I guess, on the board. So as a result, nobody really looks like they're standing out. However, I mean, I think every day, I mean, you get a chance to play Embiid at less than 10% ownership. I mean, and I understand why, like on a day like today. The other day, I didn't quite get it. I had like a bunch of them. This one, and listen, there's a lot of competition. You have Giannis, who's finally showing sort of a ceiling. You have, Sabonis, even Sabonis with what's his name might be out or whatever it is. But then you have Jokic, who's putting up 80 a game. But I mean, and I know the Celtics are obviously a tremendous defensive team, but I mean, there is no defensive team that's going to really deal with Embiid until the playoffs when they all triple team him like they did last year. So I don't think that's going to happen this time. And I think that Jokic is clearly – I have to use Jokic in the same sentence, right? So Jokic is clearly a better play, even with the 700. But I think that Embiid's going to be half the ownership of him. And I would take a shot at that, actually. Yeah. And on the Boston side, I'm really not getting too much.
Yeah, I in my early builds, I found myself with a Jokic and Embiid lineup together. I don't know that Jokic is that much better of a play, by the way. I just want to point out, like, talk about games like this game should obviously stay close, right? Mm-hmm. The issue we've had with some of the Embiid games has been them staying competitive. He had a bad game against Milwaukee when they were literally just sending everybody after him, double, triple teaming him the whole time in the first game of the season. And then he just absolutely has been smashing with a little mini blowout against Phoenix, a little blowout against Washington with only 31 minutes. As you mentioned, he could have had 90 fantasy points in that game. Yep. I don't think there's a huge difference. Remember, if James Harden was on this team and he was just sitting out and Jamal Murray was out, we would have Jokic and Embiid projected fairly similarly. And I think that they should be projected fairly similarly. No matter what, 11K for a guy who's projected to score 60 fantasy points is pretty damn good. And I think that there's a lot of room on the upside there, not to mention the revenge factor. And if you really believe they're going to send everybody after him, I would play some Tyrese Maxey. But again, it's a big slate, so that's probably all I'm getting to here.
Well, there's another one, by the way, that I wanted to look into. Derek White, we're not sure if he's playing or whatever it is, but in a weird thing, when he sat the last time, like Al Horford. What?
He's going to play. He's probable.
Oh, okay, because Al Horford started in his place. And they could probably use him today.
Yeah, he already announced that he's the only way he wouldn't play if he got hurt during the day, I think, today.
Okay.
So, but we might get somebody else. You never know. All right, Clippers and Brooklyn. I'm going to keep this one short. I have zero interest in anything for the Clippers, and until we get some weird price something or other, and you see Westbrook at like 5K, I'm probably just going to stay away from the Clippers for the time being. I do think that they're going to bounce back. They'll figure it out a little bit. I think we have to, and it came up the other night, and there's just so many good plays on the slate. But look, man, Cam Thomas is averaging 29 real life points per game, this season. At 7K, you could argue what kind of a matchup it is. I would say it's a very plus matchup. Depends on really who's guarding him, but both he and Simmons are interesting. I think he's the upside play, though. So really, it's just Cam Thomas, and even that, it's just a big slate. So you got to weigh where does he rank. He's not a super priority, but he's definitely a guy at 7K that I'm going to want some exposure to. I think he's being underprojected as always. He's going to be relying on scoring, but he can really score, and they don't have a lot of guys who can really score. So Cam Thomas or nothing for me in this game.
I think I agree with that assessment. I can't. I don't think I want to take shots at this new Clipper experience like for a little while. I want to get at least a game or two to see what they do here. You know.
We got the one where the Knicks beat the hell out of them.
Yeah. But I think Harden was intentionally limited there. But I just mean like the usage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whether they play these guys in fantasy. And on the Brooklyn side, listen, it's hard to deny that Thomas is doing what he's doing, like what you said he'd be doing like 2 weeks ago. But and with all these guys continuing to be out, I guess he's going to continue to get these shots. But actually, Bridges is back now. Dinwiddie, I don't know. I'll probably end up fading the whole game if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that's totally reasonable. I just am probably going to throw in that Thomas at 2% play that almost got me there the other night. No, not in the big buy-ins, but I would have won the single entry. I had a outside chance to fade away with a nice pivot play from that one. All right, next up, do you have Dallas?
No, I have.
I'm sorry, San Antonio.
I have San Antonio, and this is a big deal. This is Wembanyama's first trip to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
That's always a big thing for some reason, even though the Knicks, haven't been competitive in a long time.
It's still the place to play, man.
It still is for some reason. So, and especially when probably 90% of the people are going to be there to root for him. Anyway, they'll root for the Knicks to win, but they're there to see Wembanyama. That's the deal. That's the deal with the NBA. You come to the games in part to see the stars from the other teams. So I don't think I'm going to play Wembanyama at 8,600 on a huge slate like this. But with Vassell out, you might want to play some other guys. I don't know. It may be. Can you pay 7,200 for Keldon Johnson? And these guys look all pretty healthily priced. You know what I mean? Like Sohan is up to 6K.
They're healthily priced, and they play like 12 guys.
And they play 12 guys because they're not in any game. They just.
No, they've actually been good.
Yeah, I don't know.
They beat Phoenix twice already on the road, both games.
I guess. I'm like, yeah, it's true. Look at that. They only lost 2 games by 40 so far. Okay.
No, there's gonna be some, but also there's a scheduling blowout on that one. That one they played the overtime, and then the next day they had to go on the road. That's a tough one. But anyway, so I think Wembanyama is completely in play on every slate, every time he's low on, which is going to be most slates because it's really hard to project him. What I would just mention though is remember both sides of the back-to-backs, his numbers are going to be skewed because they won't play him as many minutes, but they're playing him in the back-to-backs. They won't play him on either side. This is a spot where it's not like ideal, but it's because of the first game narrative in New York. And because I like taking Wemby at low ownership, I'll probably get a little bit of exposure in large field stuff. And I think that Mitchell Robinson is a really good play here. You have multiple bigs being played all the time by the Spurs, basically. It could be a Hartenstein night, but it just like the Spurs play frantic. They play, they're aggressive, they're sloppy. This is a spot where you could see some blocks, steals. Mitch Robinson could end up with like 10 points and 20 rebounds kind of a game. So I think Mitch Robinson is the one you consider. If it was a smaller slate, I would say you would include some Hartenstein in your mix. And just having said that out loud, I already know that's going to come back and bite me. Hartenstein's going to end up with like 40 fantasy points. But I do think Mitch Rob is a pretty strong play. All right. What do we got next here for you?
Hey, before we go on, because when the troll kind of took me off my rhythm there for a minute, did we finish the Charlotte? Did we talk about Gordon Hayward at all? Because
I mentioned I like him, yeah.
Okay. Only because I'm seeing him as really, really high owned.
I think he's being a little over projected at the moment, but I still think he's a good play.
All right, fair, very good. And even PJ Washington. I'm just looking at other guys there. Okay.
Yeah, PJ. Pretty much all of them. I had it. Yeah, I had Hayward second behind LaMelo, Washington, then Williams in my order.
Okay.
All right. So for the 8 Eastern games, which one do you have first? You have
I have Miami, Memphis.
All right. Why don't you start this one off? I don't think there's going to be a whole lot to say, at least not for me.
Yeah, nothing really. if I had to play somebody on Miami, I guess it would be. I'm not going to play Bam off the ceiling thing, but maybe I guess Hero, but not a lot of interest there. And on Memphis, I don't know, 8,700 Bane on a big slate against Miami, or even Jaren Jackson Jr. Tillman remaining out. I'm not going to play Biyombo if he starts again. Even it's probably just a pass for me.
Yeah, so I have a play in this game that's probably going to be something that I don't play later on, but I actually think is a much better play. Like we talk about, projecting minutes and trying to find flaws in the system. And I'm looking at, at least, a 22-minute projection for Luke Kennard. They got their first win of the season the other night, and he played 32 minutes. He played 27 minutes the game before that. That feels like a misjudge of his expected minutes to me. And I would lean more into that he's closer to 30 than he is to 20. And that would make him a value play with, he's a guy who can go out there and make 5-6 threes and really do something. So I know there's other guys getting more involved and they're sort of spreading out some other minutes. I think Luke Kennard, because they are missing some shooting and the fact that he played well and they won their first game of the season, I think you might see more minutes from Luke Kennard tonight. Is it a good enough value play for us to play on this kind of a slate? Probably not. But definitely a guy I wanted to mention, and maybe use it only for some large field stuff.
Not only that, but just even a cursory look at his game log. I mean, he was in concussion protocol for a while, and they slowly but surely they moved him back in 21 minutes and 27 minutes and 32 minutes. Yeah. So I mean, for me, that I think that's good enough to project him like more closer to 30 than some of these others.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think that's definitely reasonable. All right. Next up, you have Dallas. You have Phoenix, Cleveland. Phoenix, who's it?
Phoenix. Let me put him in here for a second. I'm going to put Kennard into this build here. Okay.
Oh, you like that one.
Yeah.
All right. Phoenix, Bradley Beal is supposed to be playing his first game of the season tonight. If he doesn't, I don't mind getting to some Durant. I know the price is kind of crazy and he doesn't hit that often enough, but there's still a ceiling there without Booker if Beal is out also as of right now, though. And then on the other side, same rule as always. One bull is a good idea, but not going literally I'd have to end up with them. None of them are priorities for me on this slate as of right now, but all of them are definitely heavily in play.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't play more on this type of slate. I wouldn't play more than one of those Chicago guys in the same lineup. And the Phoenix thing, like you said, I mean, if Beal remains out, you could take a shot with Durant as a very, as a low-owned play. But I think that if Beal gets ruled out, now that he's expected to play, if he does get ruled out again, then I think the people are going to jump on Durant, and you're not even going to get an ownership bargain with him. So,
right,
I'm probably just off of the Phoenix, if you want to know the truth. Which means I'm probably off of this game. So it's another one trying to make the big slate small. I think I can ignore this game for at least the time being. Yeah,
I think that's fair. And I will mention that super fringy, a guy you're going to put in the 150 mix, I would use a little bit of Patrick Williams value. Again, another guy.
Haven't heard that name in a while.
Well, it's just he's 3,600. I think they're misprojecting his minutes also. But I think that it's hard to project his minutes. So I don't know. My guess is that he's going to start playing more minutes for the Bulls and put up some decent games soon. All right. We'll talk about OKC. This is OKC, right? Cleveland?
Yep.
All right. I'll start this one off really quickly just because, I don't have anything on a Cleveland side. OKC's been playing really fast. It feels tempting to maybe take a shot at Garland here. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I definitely think it's in play. He's the one because of the price that makes the most sense to me. I have no issue with Mobley or Jared Allen, but I don't really want to go out of my way to play them. And I'm just going to say the same thing about Chet that I do about Wembanyama. These guys are just going to have really monster games and really big, down games. And you kind of are supposed to be over the field on that. Is this the right slate for it? Is this the right matchup? Probably not. Although bigs have been getting to Cleveland this year, which is kind of weird. So probably nothing for me from OKC. Maybe a thin Garland play from the other side, from Cleveland. But probably going to be outside looking in mostly in this game, even though I think that it has a potential for Cleveland to it's a big pace-up spot for them.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander had a big game against Cleveland, just early in the season. He had 65 fantasy points. I don't know if that was a game where Jared Allen played. Jared Allen certainly makes it harder to score on them.
I think no Jared Allen, and I don't know if Garland played either. By the way, not that it matters.
So my point is that I think Cleveland now, with all their guys back, is going to go back to being that team that's kind of tough, put fantasy points up against. So I'm probably, if anything, I think I'm in agreement with you. If there's anything, it would be on the Cleveland side, and if there's anything on the Cleveland side, it might be Darius Garland. So I kind of just reiterate pretty much exactly what you said there. So maybe Garland or nothing as far as this game for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking about with Chet and Wemby. I might just do this thing where every time they play, I just build at least like one lineup with both of them. That way I don't even worry about it. You know what I mean? Because like there's going to be those nights where they're 1% owned and they're both going to like 60 fantasy points, and you don't need to be right, every day. You can be wrong almost all the time and just get it right once. I think that's probably the way I'm going to approach it. Two very high risk, high upside things. New Orleans, Minnesota.
I'll start with this one.
Yeah, you go ahead because this is a really tough one.
Okay, so as I mentioned in the lead into the show, Zion Williamson has been, I think, ruled out. Yeah, he's out for personal reasons. Just on top of a game where he finally got minutes, and had a good game. So, that usage is going to flow. It's going to flow around. It's going to flow to, I guess Valanciunas. I guess obviously to Brandon Ingram. We have to see who replaces him in the starting lineup. I have no projections to really deal with this, but I do want to talk about another two guys. And again, I played this slate the other day, literally like very, very blindly. Like I picked a couple of my favorite guys and I played them, and I thought I ended up with Embiid. And I had a couple of lemons, which kind of ruined my chance to really do something, because one of the guys I had was that Jordan Hawkins character, and he was 4,600, and he was very low owned in this.
Well, can I point out that he was 4,200 the game before, and he missed and he played horribly, so then no one wanted to play him. And then he comes back and bounces back. But I'll just, for anybody who doesn't know who Jordan Hawkins is, this kid is a rookie who can really shoot it. He's going to have some bad shooting nights, but he'll keep gunning. And just want to throw that out there that you should feel you're going to have some, why are we playing Jordan Hawkins nights? But you're also going to have we kind of need to have him to have a chance.
Well, so what ended up happening in that slate, like you said, is that he had a pedestrian game the day before and like an awful game 2 games before,
Mm-hmm.
So. And I just kind of saw him, and I played him, and the chalky guy that was played was Dyson Daniels. I think I played both of them in some whatever, but I had Hawkins, so I had a chance to watch some of the game because all the rest of my lineups, rest of my players were kind of bad besides Embiid and Hawkins. I need like those guys just carried like the whole team pretty much, and they did well enough. Like I had Reggie Jackson in that lineup. I had all kinds of terrible things, right? And I saw Jordan Hawkins basically single-handedly like lead my team to cash, right? And so I was watching this kid. And listen, you can never rely on guys that hit 10 threes. But what I noticed, which is really, this is like subtle, but he goes to the rim defensively to get rebounds. And I noticed it a couple of times during the game. Like there are guards out there that just kind of like wait for the play, someone else get the rebound. He literally just left his guy, once the ball was up, maybe because he's a rookie, he's used to having more of a role. Maybe some of the rookies do this. And he grabbed like 7 rebounds, and I'm looking even at his game log, 5 rebounds a couple games before that, 6 rebounds. No, those points like add up, for $4,700 guys,
Yeah.
So he's certainly, at least right now, the top point per dollar play that I have, and he's going to be pretty highly owned. And it's kind of dirty to play him off of that game, but he's going to start again.
Well, there's no McCollum and there's no Zion.
That's what I mean. And there's no McCollum again, and if there's no Zion, that's a pretty good play to say the least. So I like him, and the other thing I would mention is on the Minnesota side. I have Naz Reid as playable at 4,600. Boy, what a healthy ownership projection though. 20% for him.
Yeah, that won't happen.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I have him as
Maybe.
playable. And seeing a 5x projection on Mike Conley, I didn't even know he was back on Minnesota. What do I know? Or he's on Minnesota at all. So not a lot except for the Jordan Hawkins and whoever else projects well for New Orleans. You know what I mean? Like they're all gonna probably project pretty well. The Minnesota plays sort of slow nowadays, and that was part of the reason.
Team in the NBA at the moment.
That was part of the reason why the other day, I came in for my second NBA bet of the year. I played Minnesota Boston under 228. And even with the overtime, it went under. So and that's like you said, Minnesota is just kind of different now. That's the only thing I would caution about New Orleans. It doesn't matter. I mean, with Zion's usage out, I mean, everybody else is just going to look good. It's a question of which one to play or which two to play.
Yeah, this is I mean, this feels like if you look at it now, like it feels like it should be just a massive blowout. It feels like a complete mismatch. Yeah. So there's two ways to play it. I think one, you stack and hope it stays close. I think everybody on Minnesota is reasonably priced also, like just affordable. Like I would take shots with Edwards. I would be happy to take shots with Naz Reid or Rudy Gobert or Mike Conley or Jaden McDaniels if I'm going to run like 3 or 4 Pelicans, because I think you should be starting your builds with Jordan Hawkins and at least one of Ingram and Valanciunas. The problem is I worry about the blowout to where that might be a little dangerous. So I'm not sure what to do. I think these are if the projections have really updated with Zion out, they're just completely wrong.
No, they did not.
They have not updated at all. And I think that Brandon Ingram and Jordan Hawkins are the first two you start with. I think next guy you get in would be Joe Val. And if you're not playing Joe Val, I would get exposure to Larry Nance against a team that plays this big. I also think you'd be mixing in potentially the fringier plays, the Dyson Daniels, Herbert Jones, Matt Ryan, Kira Lewis, even using an extra one of those guys. I could see a stack where you could play for the Pelicans and run it back with two, like maybe a Conley and a Gobert, or Conley and Naz Reid, or maybe even Conley and Anthony Edwards, or maybe Anthony Edwards and Gobert. There's a lot of ways you could do the stacks, or you could just play, okay, well, we know Hawkins is probably going to get minutes anyway. He's going to be checking up shots. If not him, Dyson Daniels should succeed. So one of those two, I think, is a pretty good rule of thumb, even if it's a blowout. So there will probably be a New Orleans player on every single one of my lineups at least.
Yeah.
And I think this also is worth taking a shot at a game stack and hoping it stays close because of the pricing and the condensed usage for New Orleans. All right. Detroit, Milwaukee sheets. What do you got?
Well, Giannis finally had a game that we would take, I guess. Look what he needed to do to get that. It was like 15 to play a full 35 minutes, to take up 27 shots. What's this guy? Why is he still doing this? He's taking 7 threes, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 62 points. 62 points might not be enough today. And considering that, I imagine there's like significant blowout risk in this game. I don't know what the spread is.
Yeah, it's
pretty big. That's pretty risky to go with Giannis there. A couple of value plays on the other side of this, though. First of all, value that may exist would be if Jalen Duran is out. So if Duran is out, first of all, Stewart would be better, but then you get Marvin Bagley. Like if he starts at 4,300, that's going to show up. But values that already exist, you have this Marcus Sasser guy who you could talk about. He's one of the top point per dollar plays I have. And then I have Killian Hayes is playable at 4,900. Now again, it's kind of a weird game, because you have to play well. Detroit side, at least, if they're going to play well enough, then they're going to stay in, I guess. But Sasser 4,500, Killian Hayes at 4,900, Bagley if Duran is out. And the only way I would play Giannis here is if played like multiple Detroits, and I'd probably have to play Cade Cunningham also. He'd have to, for openers, have to have a really good game to make it so that I would want to play Giannis. So nothing else for me on the Milwaukee side, and that's pretty much all I have.
Yeah, so I think Killian Hayes is the best play, and I think that Sasser is the second best play in this game. And I kind of would like to leave it at that because I think everybody else is fine on the Detroit side. But I think you play one of Hayes or Sasser along with Hawkins. You've got your cheap backcourt. We can do stuff like Jokic and Giannis. And then we've also got, we're getting exposure to the other game we need to, or we could get the stack of Washington, Charlotte, Utah, Indy. But I think you started off with one of Sasser or Hayes. Currently, I would have one of those guys in cash along with Jordan Hawkins probably as just a nice. You started off nice and cheap. And I will mention, if Jalen Duren is out, what worked out really well the other night was fading Bagley. They finally did it for the first time this year. They didn't play one of the Bagley or whatever centers. They stuck with Jalen. It was with Isaiah Stewart down the stretch as playing the big. Now they were playing Golden State, who was playing Draymond at the 5 for a lot of it. So take it with a grain of salt. But if Duren is out, using Isaiah Stewart instead of Bagley might be worthwhile to take some shots. But Bagley would look like an awesome play. I just wouldn't. I don't want to end up with 3 or 4 Pistons tonight. It just doesn't feel right. But again, if the value is there, maybe you get to 1 or 2 of them. And I'm still really baffled by this Jay Crowder projection. I don't really understand it. I'm gonna have to look a little bit further into it. And I think it's to have him. Okay, sure. It just feels very fringy to be playing a guy who's shooting 90% from 3-point range. On this slate at 3,900 at high ownership. I don't know. It doesn't feel like my kind of a play, to be honest, but could it hit in a potential blowout scenario? Sure. Bobby Portis would be another one, but I just think we don't want to overlook it, look too deep on this slate. We want to make it smaller. For me, it's the backcourt for Detroit. I think if there wasn't such other great games, I would be talking to a game stack, but I don't see it happening with that one. All right. Okay, let's see what do we got here. Sheets.
I have Lakers Houston.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess I'll start. So Davis got hurt. He had a groin injury. Sent him in at halftime. He tried to play, but then he took himself out. So let's just get right to it. I mean, if he sits, he's played on 7 teams. So he's probably got revenge all over the universe. But you might have a real good Christian Wood spot. If Davis gets ruled out at only 5,100. Now, again, that's not going to be particularly surprising for the field. As a matter of fact, I think if Davis gets ruled out, I would venture to say that Christian Wood might be the most popular player on the slate. But we'll see. But that's one thing to definitely look for. And fortunately, it's going to be 8 o'clock. You get to play these other 8 o'clocks, but you do have to commit to at least some of the 7 o'clock games before you get that news. If he's also out, I suppose you're supposed to play everybody, right? Because he's been doing everything for the Lakers. So go to play LeBron, play, what's his name? Go back to Reeves, even though he hadn't done much.
Reeves just had a monster game the other night.
Oh, he finally did? I didn't even notice.
He had 55 or something.
So I obviously we'll watch the news on that. If he's in, I don't know. Maybe you play him. Maybe you just play him anyway. Maybe you play Davis. I'm saying if he's in fact playing. As a matter of fact, that is what I'm going to say. If Davis plays, then I think you play him. If he's out, then I think you play whichever center's playing for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, once again, you could just keep playing Sengun. Now we're talking about 2 centers, 3 centers, whatever it is, and other guys on Houston. Not really anything for me.
Well, we got the old Sengun. I only got the 3/4 out of it, but that was kind of frustrating too. He was 0.6% owned the other night, and he had 50 in the first 3 quarters, and actually it was 2.5 quarters. I'll tell you what, if Anthony Davis is out, you might want to double center with Wood and Sengun. Sengun is going to just torture Wood. There's no way that in the war, a million years, that Christian Wood could do any sort of defense or anything against him whatsoever. Sengun is tremendously underrated still. He's one of the most skilled bigs in the NBA offensively. If Davis, so if we find out, and if Davis is a no-go, I agree that Christian Wood is going to look like a good value. I also think if the ownership gets too high, you can find a way to pivot. The Lakers could try Rui at the 5, and there could be something else. I don't know. It's really hard to analyze this one, and obviously LeBron becomes a good play, which would then make this game look stackable because then you play LeBron, Christian Wood. You can run it back with either Sengun and or Van Vliet. just kind of an interesting little game stack to get after where there's tremendous upside. So, or you could throw Jalen Green in there, but I would personally go with Şengün being my favorite. Tari Easton's coming back. He's probable. He's $3K. That's too cheap. Obviously, like for anybody, but Tari Easton can actually play, and he's a part of their future and their plans. He's not going to start, but it's really just about how many minutes you think he gets. He's better than a fantasy point per minute player, or he will be this year, in my opinion. So I'm really not sure what to do with any of it. All this to say, I know I'm going to be sprinkle in a little bit of Şengün and Van Vliet, and I'm probably going to play Christian Wood if Davis is out. I'm open to your idea of playing just whatever Laker big you want anyway. Slick says, why did Reeves have a big game? I don't even understand how to answer that type of question. It's not everything has a story. It's basketball. Like, he had a good game, period. And this is not the same Miami team that we've seen in the past, but also he is realistically their third best player. There's way too much D'Angelo Russell on this Laker team. It's just D'Angelo Russell and Christian Wood are just recipes to lose in the NBA. But there's no real way to just answer like, oh, why did he have a good game? I don't know. He made enough of his shots, and he was really active. He had a ton of assists, and he's a good player.
Austin Reeves, to your point, was one assist away from a triple double.
Yeah, and he's got he's the Joe Burrow. It takes him a few weeks to get going.
And there was another person in that game with a triple double. It was the aforementioned Bam Adebayo, actually.
Yeah, Bam with just the craziest. And by the way, like part of that was against it. Like that just gives you a little bit of a glimpse as to what Şengün will do tonight. Şengün might end up with 80, just like Bam got, or whatever the hell Bam got the other day. All right.
One thing I noticed, I'm fiddling around with this lineup, is that we should have mentioned this. I should have mentioned this. That Naz Reid. I mean, not that he's like the greatest player ever, but he is power forward eligible as well as center, which I forgot to mention. So
I'm just going to throw out something about Naz Reid. Like, sure, if there's going to be any ownership on him and why you'd play him tonight, I have no idea why anyone would play him tonight. It makes no sense. He always has a ceiling. There's nothing. Maybe the blowout angle, you could say that benefits him.
Yeah.
But why in the hell would we be playing the same guy who's like unowned on a 6-game slate because he's going to be popular on a big slate? This doesn't make any sense. Right. He's going to have some games. He's going to have some 40s and 50s in there. They also have, remember, it's not like Cat's going to be cut down to 20 minutes and Gobert's going to be cut down to 20 minutes, and he's got to play. He's only playing while one of those guys sit.
Right.
So just on these slates, I would treat that with a grain of salt. Maybe only use it in stacks or something like that, or I don't know. All right. Toronto and Dallas. What do you got here, Sheets?
Well, Luka, every slate is going to project to be one of the top raw points players. Doesn't have such a great projection today, but listen, he always has that kind of upside. 12,000 is tough to get to, especially with Irving there. Also, Toronto plays pretty good defense. I imagine whoever the Toronto's defensive guy, who's it, Anunoby probably, somebody. Not that he could shut him down or anything like that, but I don't know. I probably rate him a little bit lower than I usually do, Luka. But he is going to be 5% owned, I think, maybe even less. So I don't know. But aside from ownership, I really don't have too much in this game, literally at all.
Yeah, probably worth mentioning that Scotty Barnes is averaging 50 fantasy points a game and has not been below 44 in a game this season. Just put up 67 the other day. Dallas doesn't play defense. He's 8,900. I'm really not sure why the sites are hesitant to move him up. He belongs in the same price range based on what we've seen recently as the Tyrese Halliburton, who also should be moved up. But this guy's averaging, of all the players in this slate, where does he stand? He's the 6th highest scoring fantasy player on the slate per game. Scotty Barnes, actually 5th because Booker's out. No, 4th because Booker's out. So Scotty Barnes is the 4th highest scoring player. He's 8,900 in a nut matchup, and no one is going to play him. I think that if we talk about Luka at low ownership, if you wanted to do something that no one will do, play Luka and Scotty Barnes on the other side. I don't think I'm going to get to Luka because of the guard value, and I like the centers that we can pay up for today, and Kyrie's back. I do expect to see more games like Kyrie had the other night. I think he's going to start playing better. But it's the long shot. And it's not even that long shot of a play. It's just the super low owned Scotty Barnes play. And that's pretty much all I like in this game. But
we don't get to play Luke at small forward anymore, huh?
No, I don't know what the hell was going on with that earlier. Also shooting guard too, like something he like never does anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess because Kyrie is there, but like really if you watch
Scotty Barnes is doing really well, and you again another one that you identified really early in the season. And again, I think maybe the reason why his projection isn't improving is that the projection source are not realizing that the offense is sort of flowing through him. You know, like it's and that's what you mentioned like really, really early on. So yeah, I kind of like that. I like the Scotty Barnes. And listen, it's a 100-game slate, but whatever. He could certainly put up 50 plus pretty easily, actually.
Yeah. And the other guy, we just have to remember everybody makes a mistake. I listen to analysts on other shows and they drive me nuts. Sheets. I lose my mind listening to people. They're like, well, just because Dallas just plays at the slowest pace. Look at them over the last 3 years. I'm like, they lost all of their defenders and they added Kyrie Irving and they have a 19-year-old playing center. What the hell aren't you guys picking up? They play way faster now and they play zero defense. So people, and even Vegas was like slow to react to how bad Dallas is and how many up-tempo games they're going to be in this year. All right.
So this is a great slate, and it's also a great slate for a late sweat because you have all these games that start at 8:30, and then and none of these games like are necessarily definitive of what happens in the slate. Because after all these games, you still have Jokic. You know what I mean? You still have Jokic and Curry, and then one more game. So it's a really fun slate to be all night long. People are going to be on all these games, and this, and it's not even remotely over because Jokic is still on the bench until 10 p.m. So and he's going to project to be the highest fantasy point player, as he probably will every slate. Maybe not every slate, but most slates he's playing. Guy just does it all. I don't know what else to say. With Jamal Murray remaining out,
as you're speaking. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, as we're speaking, I see this little cue ball here. Oh, he's probable. Okay.
No. Yeah, I mean, like Walker Kessler is now doubtful. Draymond Green just got announced out.
Okay.
It's not going to update, but maybe we should skip this game for the moment and then just come back to it.
Well, I don't have to skip it to say that I think Jokic is a good.
Well, no, but Draymond Green being out is the other side of the game.
Right, but we could adapt a little bit. We only have one other game anyway, so
okay.
So I'll deal with it. So Jokic out. Reggie Jackson took a little bit of money in his last game. He was awful, because he's just kind of awful anyway. Because I guess that the idea was that with Murray out, that someone would have to take over that responsibility. But I guess it's just Jokic. I guess that's just what it is. But there was another guy out there that was doing some stuff. You had Strother who got 20 minutes in this game. That's interesting, actually.
I just don't. I think what are we reaching for this stuff on this slate for?
I don't know. I'm just looking.
Yeah, 100%. Strother is interesting. Like, are we really going to play Strother? Who might play 12 minutes on a 14-game slate with lots of value?
Let me see. Caldwell Pope. I'm just looking because Murray's out. Okay, so Denver is probably just going to end up being Jokic. And like you said, Draymond has been ruled out, so we have to see what ends up happening. In either case, I don't think I'm going to get to Curry. Who do you think would come in there? Is what's his name still on the team?
Not really going to make a difference. I'm realizing. So Looney will end up starting anyway, probably.
Right.
But you also have Saric, who's played well for them and can take Jokic away from the basket. At least that's something offensively they can do. Chris Paul will look like a better play. Everybody will look like a slightly better play, but I still don't think anybody's priced to where you must play them. If they announce they're starting Kuminga or something, yeah, maybe that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to matter all that much. You just give everybody a little bump. So maybe if you wanted to play a Steph Curry Jokic lineup, you can feel a little bit better about it, although I'm not recommending it tonight. So, I think the plays in this game, I actually think there's a really good play in this game that no one's going to play. I think Jokic is a great play, and I think if you're not playing Jokic, you should be playing some Michael Porter Jr. When Jamal Murray goes out, first of all, Michael Porter Jr. last 3 games, 42, 45, 38. He's highly volatile, but he can get super hot, like a Klay Thompson level hot on the other side of a team that gives up threes. I could see this being a really big game for Porter. And remember, two of those last games that I mentioned were ended up as blowouts and only played 31 and 29 minutes. He could have been up to, he basically missed a rotation in each of those games. He might be like, you could argue that he should be over 7K, and I think at 6,500 feels like a really nice price. I think he's being way under projected. Give me the over on 30 fantasy points. You're going to project him at 30. I would say that he should be projected around 35, and I think there's upside for 50 plus. So I think he's a really good tournament play. Yeah, pretty simple as that.
Okay, so if you didn't like any of that,
Gordon's out now too.
If you didn't like any of those other like zillions of games, and then there are 2 games left, and you didn't even want, and then it's not enough to like have Jokic as a late night hammer for you and Curry. I'll tell you this Portland Sacramento game, you could give this to me, okay? Because one of the things two things that I was waiting on. How are some of these teams that play 7:00 not letting you know anything till 6:52, and Sacramento and Portland are both so nice enough to inform me that Fox and Henderson are out 9 hours before the game starts. Okay, thank you very much. So,
well, they've announced it for the last week. There's nothing changed. They didn't announce it recently.
All right. In any case, so let's do it, man. Malcolm Brogdon's going to play 474 minutes for Portland. And then you got Shaedon Sharpe also for Portland. I'll play both those dudes and maybe add another one. I don't know. And then with Fox out, so I'll take a shot at somebody. I took a shot the other day, and for the life of me, I don't know why he only played 15 minutes. I guess I'll get back to him in a minute. But there's got to be guys to play. So Keegan, who's your man? Keegan Murray, 6,500. Sabonis at 10,000. But I'm not exactly sure why, like Malik Monk, like didn't play more than 15 minutes in a game with Fox out, especially when the game blew out later. Don't know exactly what that was all about. But I might give this another try on the price bump off of that game. So the guy that's going to start is probably going to be Davion Mitchell again. But I don't know. I think that I want to freaking attack this game and give myself a shot. It's kind of where I'm at here.
Yeah, I was more on that earlier. I don't think it's as great. Like, one thing to keep in mind, this is not the same. The Kings are bad. They've been really bad.
Oh, good. So maybe Portland doesn't lose by 40 again.
Maybe that's one thing you take from it. They also don't play fast. They don't give the scoring is way down for both these teams. Neither of them are doing anything like pace wise, which is not what you would have thought before the season. I think the interest in this game for me, like Jabari Walker, I'm kind of going to ignore that projection. It feels like an overreaction, but I am going to consider it because it does give you that late. Like if you're playing 3 guys late and I have one really cheap guy, you never know who might open up. And we're already getting stuff opening up in Denver. We just got Aaron Gordon announced out. So Portland, but one thing is, thank you to the leagues for the people who are letting this happen. So yeah, Travis, you know what? Yes, Christian Braun will probably be an okay guy to take a stab at. I still prefer the Michael Porter Jr. thing, but it's really hard to answer that question at 9:30 in the morning because there's a lot of time left. We don't even have updated projections yet. Malcolm Brogdon and DeAndre Ayton are my favorites. I actually like Ayton the best. I think he's my number 1 play from the problem is he's a center. So that's the only issue I'm running into there. But one of Ayton, Brogdon, Sharpe seems about right. It does feel like a little bit fringy. They're going to trade Brogdon. He's not a part of their future. I don't think he's going to continue playing all these minutes. There's a chance Skylar Mays ends up getting a lot of love here by the end of or getting a lot of looks by the end of the day. Same thing with Kobe Jones on the other side. But I like the idea that you said earlier about going back to Malik Monk. I will gamble on that every time. I don't care what happened in the last game. I really don't. The problem is that why he's a little less tempting than usual is they have a ton of guards, and they added Chris Duarte also.
Yeah.
And Colby Jones, they're giving minutes too. So even without Fox, they're still just so guard heavy. So I'm not finding a lot to love on the Sacramento side personally. But you could just keep it simple and say you could play like a Brogdon Sabonis. Sabonis doesn't really benefit that much without Fox, by the way, statistically. Everybody else always wants to play him, but I think it's usually a good fade. Tonight, no one's going to play him, so I'm kind of more in. But overall, I just have this game as like this whole thing as like a question. But if there was a priority from it, it would be one of the Brogdon, Ayton, Sharpe, and probably Brogdon would be that guy. So I'm going to say the priorities are very hard to do on a very large slate, but look, the Washington-Charlotte game has a lot to love. Gafford, Kuzma, Poole, LaMelo on the other side, maybe Hayward, Washington, maybe Mark Williams. I love Embiid and Jokic tonight. I think I'm going to have some builds with both of them. I like Cam Thomas and Wembanyama at low ownership. Priorities: Jordan Hawkins, at least one of Ingram, Valanciunas, and Nance. Jokic, as I mentioned, one of Brogdon, Sharp, Ayton, probably Brogdon. Then Michael Porter Jr. is going to actually go to be a priority probably for me now, where I'm not playing Jokic because of no Aaron Gordon. I'm gonna have to look a little deeper. Maybe Strother is Strother may now be a much better play than he was when we first talked about him, because he could actually end up getting some of that run at small forward. They move Porter over to the 4. So that could be a big deal. So I would just say be live with us at 6. I'll for everybody who's a site member, I'm going to post all my early builds, but I'm going to give it a little bit of time because I want to sort of let the projections update and see if there's any more news after the morning shoot-arounds before I do stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with it, because there's so many good plays on this slate. But the games to focus on to me are Washington, Charlotte, obviously the New Orleans game, Utah and Indy, potentially the Lakers and Houston, depending on Anthony Davis's health.
Yeah, that.
And he's not out. I'm sorry. Aaron Gordon's a good placing. Okay, that's really rough. And Aaron Gordon too. Okay, yeah, you guys got to spell it out. It's really hard to see that. Sorry, Aaron Gordon's not out. Sorry, Cheats. Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, the Zion being out, that's a big deal. Probably have to play someone from that game. Washington, Charlotte, the Harlem Globetrotters game. I mean, it's just what is the total in that game? Is it 250? I mean,
the Washington, it's 240. Let me see.
Something.
Yeah, it's 240 and a half. The higher one, the faster game is going to be the Indy Utah game.
Oh, you think so? Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, only half point difference in them, but if the games stay close, I think that's a much nobody plays like Indy does. Indy just is blazing up the court every play. Anyway, sorry.
And and as spend ups go, Jokic looks good. I think Embiid's a really, really good low owned pivot. And certainly you could build lineups with neither of them. But I think that as value continues to open up, I think you're probably going to want to play somebody in that price range.
Yeah, I would agree.
Unless it's, but like you said, maybe you can get away with what you were saying. When you have Jokic and Halliburton in the same lineup, or what was it, Jokic and Embiid? Would you end up with that?
I have Jokic and Embiid, and I have Halliburton and LaMelo and things like that. But you potentially, by the end of the day, you definitely are going to be able to pay for 3 semi-studs if you want to.
Right.
It's just a matter of is that the right way to build? And at the moment, I'm going to say that probably is going to be the answer.
As long as we spent so much time, let me look. I am going to be playing FanDuel. They have that jumbo thing.
Yeah.
Let me just look real quick and see what if there's any real difference. Hawkins only 4,300 over there. Ouch. I already have him projected a 50% own over there.
I'm going to add that Kelly Olynyk is now a priority play, assuming that Walker Kessler's out, and he's definitely going to look like the best play on FanDuel.
Walker, where is he? Utah?
Yeah.
To add to that stack, that stack game, huh?
Look at that game, and it's just how it's going to go. I mean, even on FanDuel, you see Bruce Brown at 5,200, projected to 6x basically. Miles Turner.
Who is I got a who is for you. Who is Brandon Miller?
Brandon Miller is a rookie, the number 2 overall pick in the draft, who's been getting more and more run for Charlotte. I haven't really been using him for DFS much this year, but he's actually looked pretty good at spots. And they're playing him a ton of. They played him a ton of minutes the last 2 games, but when they played him a ton of minutes, he literally did absolutely nothing. I think on this slate, it's not the time to play him. Only
because I see him showing up as an okay play on FanDuel at 5,600. That's the only.
Yeah, FanDuel, if you're going to play him on one, but you're going to have a double-digit owned guy who just played his last 70 minutes, 2 games. He's totaled 28 fantasy points. That feels weird.
All these Charlottes and Washingtons in Indiana over here.
I know Rozier's out, but it's still there's gonna be some nights where Miller is good and some nights where he's not. This might be a night where he's good though. I mean, it is Washington.
Could even play Obi Toppin. 4,100 at power forward.
But do you need these plays? Like,
I don't know if you want to stack the game, it'd be nice, no?
yeah, I guess if you're stacking the game, you play top and you play the other forward spot should be a Olynyk. Well, you have Olynyk. Olynyk is your main one.
Okay.
Without a doubt. He's gonna look like a 7-8x projection by the end of the day.
Yeah.
On FanDuel. So, and I believe he has forward eligibility on DraftKings, which is big. One other guy who's probably going to show up a little bit on FanDuel is because he's at a sort of a funny price no one's at, and I think that people will use it a little bit, is Chris Paul at point guard 6,500. I'd be totally fine just fading that.
The other guy to bump, by the way, the guy we mentioned for just a couple of minutes is John Collins in Utah as well.
Yeah, agreed. And by the way, that bump you can include over to DraftKings. The problem, again, I just mentioned it with Utah all the time. They'll drive you crazy because when they miss somebody, they don't exactly just like they sort of just let everybody play anyway, you know?
And Markkanen could play the 5 if he has to.
Well, they have Olynyk and Collins already, and then Sexton is still coming off the bench, and they play a bunch of minutes to Agbaji. Even Chris Dunn gets minutes. So does Fontecchio sometimes. I don't know. It's just
I was going to say it could be Santino Day.
Yeah.
Or an Omar Vertsevian or whatever. Yeah.
And by the way, to answer the Matt Ryan thing, I'm just going to throw out that I think Matt Ryan is totally fine. He's one of the many guys in that Portland game. He definitely has more bus paths than the other guys do, but Jordan Hawkins has a bus path too. So I'm not going to say don't include him. All right, man. Well, we are going to do some football for you guys soon, and then I'm going to have my information out a little bit later today than usual. I'm going to say good luck to everybody. And Sheets, anything else before we get out of here?
No, we'll see you at 6.
Good luck, and please hit the like and subscribe.